Hello, folks. How's everybody? I hope you're doing fine. This fine sunny day, sunny Sunday. Not really too sunny over here. I'm in Germany, as you know, and it's been cloudy all day, raining, that time of the year. Anyways, today I was going to talk about this gentleman. Where is he? See if I can find him. This guy here, Niels Bohr, and his particles against St. Thomas Aquinas and his angels. And we were following up on the fact that whether you talk about angels or the quantum particles, they pretty much have the same properties. They can be at several places at once. Many of them can be at one place and so on. Okay, and I'm going to continue with that discussion on Wednesday. Okay, next time around. Today I've got something else that I'm going to be presenting, and with a couple of little surprises that I've got somewhere down the middle of the program. And before I get into that, I want to remind people that we have a conference. This is the 8th Rational Physics Conference. We're going to have it in Zambia, in Lusaka, Zambia. And it's hosted by a gentleman by name which I call Shamu. Okay. And Shamu's the host. He's the guy who's organizing it. And he's a little bit of a violent man. Here you can see him. In one of the conferences, he really took it upon me because I destroyed all his theories. So he was quite angry. He got very emotional. And yeah, that's unfortunately I didn't have my baseball bat there to whack him one. So that's just life. But you can imagine, a guy like him who grew in the jungles between lions and hyenas. He's got to be a violent guy. He's like Tarzan or something. Anyways, Shamu is hosting it, and he's a pretty intelligent fella, and we're going to see him again, hopefully. Anyways, again, I'm going to be talking about something else today. Let me get this thing out of here. And I'm going to start with a comment that someone left. A couple comments, because it's a good introduction for what I got next. Okay, so I thought that fit pretty well in there. Why? Because I think what he put down represents what a lot of people out there believe. I would say at least 90% of the people out there in the world have these beliefs, these notions, especially of what science is. And we're challenging that. We're saying that's not science at all. Okay, so here's his comment, so let's start there, okay? And he says the following. He says, why is Bill using combination of strawman tactics, semantics, and some disrespect to scientists to convince the reader of his arguments? And what caught my attention is that word disrespect, as you can see. I'm saying disrespect. No, I want to mention that I don't disrespect scientists. I treat scientists with the respect that they deserve. Okay, that's a little different. So yeah, I do treat scientists with the respect that they deserve. And I didn't create the environment that we have today in science. When I was born, 1952, long time ago, this environment already existed. It was there. Back when I came out with my theory and tried to let people know about it, I found tremendous backlash, and it wasn't friendly at all. I went in there, and I didn't go in there showing off or boasting. Look, guys, I've got a theory I'd like to share with you, blah, blah, that sort of thing. It was more like Clark Kent, a mild-mannered thing, You wouldn't believe the backlash. And one of the fellows one day, in one of the forums, I went through several forums, I got the same response everywhere. And these were all college educated and people and teachers and so on. And one day, one guy analyzes my theory, okay? And he applied what is known as the crackpot index, okay? And that's the first time I came in contact with the crackpot index. And it was invented by this gentleman. His name is John Baez, and he's, I think, a cousin of Joan Baez, the singer. And he created the crackpot index, and this crackpot index is used to belittle anyone who goes against quantum mechanics or relativity. And it's on the page of the University of California at Riverside. Now, University of California at Riverside is a institution that is largely or wholly, I think it's just largely maintained by the state. In other words, you're paying it with your tax dollars. And so if you go in there, and you want to disagree with Einstein or with, quantum mechanics or general relativity, well, these guys throw the crackpot index at you and belittle you. They make fun of you, okay? And so you got to keep that in mind, because you're paying for someone who may not agree with your ideas. It's like you're paying money, tax money to the Catholic Church, and they decide to talk about angels and spirits, and you're supporting that with your tax dollars, and now you say, well, but I don't agree that angels and spirits exist. And they start belittling you, saying, what do you know? We are scientists, you're not. So it's like, you're paying for something that is used against you if you don't agree with these guys, okay? And so, I didn't create this environment of belittling and of ridiculing and of treating other people with other ideas in a demeaning way. And this is official. This is on their website. So before you accuse me of disrespecting the poor scientists out there, look at the crackpot index created by this individual, okay? And you can see it says the crackpot index is intended to diagnose cranky beliefs regarding contemporary physics. Not contemporary physics, because this fellow's not a physicist. He's a mathematical physicist, so-called physicist. In other words, he knows nothing about physics, absolutely nothing. He's not a scientist. He's a mathematician. And a mathematician is not a scientist, and that's where we have to get to the bottom of that. What is a scientist? What is a physicist? And is a mathematician a scientist? Is a mathematician a physicist? Here we're going to argue that he's not. Okay, and he says 10 points for each claim that quantum mechanics is fundamentally misguided. So you better not challenge quantum mechanics, even though, as we've heard before, we've heard it from the gurus themselves. Richard Feynman saying no one understands quantum mechanics. Niels Bohr saying if you said that you understood quantum mechanics or you don't get dizzy by listening to it, it's you didn't understand it at all. And in fact, nobody has understood. It's like even Feynman said in another chat, he said, some people, he said there may be 10 people who understood general relativity, and he said that was too many, but there's no one who understands quantum mechanics. Okay, and so this guy says 10 points for anyone who challenges something no one understands. That's what they're saying. And you got to keep that in mind. And then you say the term, he continues, says, the term crank is often applied to persons who deny extremely well-established physical theories such as special theory of relativity. Special theory says that your twin brother can be 50 years older than you. It says that you can stretch time like a bubble gum. This concept, you can stretch it. It says so much nonsense that it's unbelievable. It says you can go back in time and kill your grandfather and so on. Or maybe to the future, because they have different opinions. Some say you can't go into the past, but you can into the future. Bunch of nonsense either way. And so if you challenge any of that, well, you're going against the grain, first of all. And here you have authority. It's backed by the University of Riverside, which you're supporting with your tax dollars. So yeah, ridicule has been around. In fact, I think it was Julian Schwinger who won the Nobel Prize, and he said peer review is going to be the end of science. And it is. You can imagine why, because it's the wrong process. It's the wrong process because these people who come from big name universities, they get good jobs, okay? So they go to Harvard, and they go to Ivy League colleges, etc. And Why did they go there? Do they go there because they're great scientists, they have a great mind, and they're great thinkers, and this is, the creme de la creme? No, quite the opposite. Exactly the opposite. If you graduated from Harvard or Cambridge in England, you are not a scientist, for sure. You're 100% sure not a scientist. Why? Because you go there to get a job. You go there to meet people who can put you in the right places. That's why you go to big name institutions. And once you're there, you're this institution, what are you going to do when you try for your PhD, your physics PhD, mathematical physics PhD? Are you going to say that Einstein was wrong? That Niels Bohr was wrong? Is that what you're going to say? Well, you won't find an advisor for your PhD. You won't find a supervisor. You're going to say, look, it's like going to Catholic school. You're going to be a priest. And you tell the cardinal or whoever runs the place, say, look, I'm going to write a thesis. My thesis, my doctoral thesis, is going to be, I'm going to prove that God doesn't exist. Well, do you think your advisor is going to accept your theory, is going to allow it to be published? No, you won't find an advisor, and you'll never get your PhD. That's how simple it is. And so when you graduate, they put you in the right places, and they put you in all these power places. Okay, so this guy's in California. I'm going to talk about another fellow who's somewhere else, but they get into the high places, and they get to be peer reviewers. And do you think they're going to vouch against their own religion? Are they going to vouch against quantum mechanics? Are they going to vouch against general relativity? Quite the contrary. They're going to promote it. That's what they're going to do. And so, when you come up to them, you say, look, I got a different theory. Oh, man, you don't even know what you're getting into. Okay? And all these people have mathematical theories. They don't have, which are not theories. They call these descriptions theories. A theory is an explanation, not a description. And math can only describe. So these people don't have theories. They call them theories, but they're not theories. The theory part is a physical interpretation, and they call that philosophy. They dismiss it as, oh yeah, that's petty opinion. So when you go in there and you attack their theory, the quantum or relativity, from a qualitative point of view, from a physical interpretation point of view, a mechanism point of view, these people dismiss it and say, we know we can't understand. We can't make sense of our own theories. We cannot explain, like some of these bozos say, that a particle can be at two places at once. They cannot explain that. Of course they cannot explain. They'll never be able to explain it. And this is not an issue that they're going to go out there and do more tests, more experiments in the lab so they can prove. You can't conceptualize it. You can't conceptualize it if your design of experiment already fails. You're never going to be able to run your experiment. And that's the issue. And so these are the people who belittle you, okay? So not only do they have weird theories, more than weird, surrealistic, they can't make any sense of them, okay? And we have this other fella, another popular guy out there that is not too many people know about. His name is John Rennie. He was editor-in-chief of Scientific American magazine. He worked in the Public Library of Science Plus. And he's now deputy director of Quanta magazine. Now, Quanta, that rings a bell, I think. It's a quantum mechanics magazine, even though this guy says he specializes more in relativity than in quantum mechanics. Somehow they gave him the job and he took it. And a few years ago, he created the Stack Exchange, Physics Stack Exchange. And they analyze, especially they try to answer questions. And the first thing is they don't accept questions that are outside of mainstream. In other words, you can't come in there with a new theory. Okay? They only will address things related to quantum mechanics and relativity because they don't consider anything else is even possible. They say these theories have been proven to exhaustion and we don't need to consider anything outside of this. And again, the issue is, are we talking math or are we talking physics? See, when you talk about math, you can do anything you want. You can just describe mathematically, put an equation, E equals mc squared. We all heard about that, right? And that equation works for them. And they said, what are you going to challenge there? You're going to put another variable in there, and you're going to remove something. You're going to take the little c out, the little e out, the m. No. So this is what they say has been proven. And that's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. The issue is the explanation they give for what that equation represents out there. If they're going to extrapolate Einstein's field equations, and from that they're going to conclude, they're going to come up to the physical interpretation that there's a concept out there in which we are embedded, or we inhabit, called space-time. And you say, what is space-time? Well, it's four-dimensional. You cannot even imagine a four-dimensional object. We live within this four-dimensional, unimaginable four-dimensional object, probably infinite for all they know. And they say, well, what is gravity? Well, gravity is the warping of space-time. And they show you this ridiculous fishnet analogy. And you say, well, what do you mean? Are you saying you're bending time? How can you bend time? What sense does it make? The sense that to say that you bend time, and that's gravity. You're bending time. You're bending a concept. It's like saying you're bending intelligence. That's gravity. I mean, what sense? They're never going to be able to make sense of such idiocy, because that's the only word you can use. It's not that I'm belittling them. It's not that I'm disrespecting them. I'm treating them with the respect that they deserve. A person who says that a particle can be at two places at once, a person who says that gravity is the warping of time, I think he shouldn't do any more research anymore. He shouldn't read anything. I think he needs to see a psychiatrist. That's what I think, okay? Because those are not rational explanations, okay? And he says, this Rennie fellow, he says, we know firsthand that anyone who even challenges Einstein is a right-wing fundamentalist. I took that a little bit out of context. I want to make sure you understand that. He said that there was a case a few years back, Kansas Board of Education for some religious thing. It was like the second monkey trial, and he said it in that context, okay? So he was a little, again, belittling, whether he agrees with Christians or not, he was belittling them. And you'll see this throughout so-called science. So those people who think that someone is disrespecting the so-called scientists, they better get in line and figure out what science is today, because in the publishing world, these are the guys that dominate, and they do belittle and they do laugh at everybody else. Or like my mother used to say, half of the world laughs at the other half. And these guys laugh at you, and they belittle you, and they do anything to protect their positions of power. So, when I go on the attack, people say, oh, Bill, look at how you're treating these poor scientists. They do all this work. They're so hardworking. And you're coming in there with a hatchet and just chopping up everything they're saying. These guys are no saints. So don't fall in love with them. You got all these celebrities like Brian Greene and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku. They're making millions just spreading nonsense, idiocy. They're not scientists. Obviously, they're not scientists. But he who says, oh, Michio Kaku, let me get his autograph. That's celebrity stuff. That's got nothing to do with science. Science is a guy who investigates and tries to think and figure out how this universe works. These guys have already bought into what their teachers told them, what they taught them. Why? Because they went to school, to some high-level school. Why? To get a job, to get a career, to get a path to the high places. That's it. A guy who does that is a politician. He's a religious fanatic. He's not a guy who sits down and tries to think, to figure out how this universe works. He just swallows stuff from his teachers because that's the only way he's going to graduate. So the system has a problem. The entire system has a problem. Okay, it's again the peer review system. All it does is confirm the existing theories, or reinforce them. Just it's the same thing over and over again. You're going to hear it over and over. For the next 1,000 years, fortunately we don't live that long, but for the next 100,000 years, all you're going to hear about is black holes, dark matter, and particles that travel backwards in time. That's it. And of course, a lot of people don't understand any of that. They can't make any sense of it and says, oh, that's all that stuff is way over my head. Thank God that we have all these mathematicians who understand all that stuff. I'm just going to continue punching my card at my regular job and listen to these guys being so fascinating. What's fascinating? These guys are talking about nonsense. You know, a lot of these people, they say, well, a lot of these things that I'm attacking are straw men. That, in fact, this fellow said it there. I take things out of context, they say. Okay, let me give you an example. I come home one day, okay, and I find my $1,000 vase broken, shattered on the floor, 1,000 pieces. What happened here? Who did this? I look around and I try to kill someone. They broke my vase. And my son comes over and says, let me explain what happened. Okay? What happened? Well, you see, there was Goldilocks and Alice in Wonderland. And they were arguing, and one of them hit the vase, and it fell on the floor and shattered. Okay, so who's Goldilocks? Who's Alice in Wonderland? It's just an analogy, Dad. Huh? An analogy? Yeah, it's just an analogy. Goldilocks is a bundle of energy. She's just always excited and so on. And the other one, she's an excited field. She's always excited as well, so they get angry and they get hot-headed. But who are Goldilocks and Alice in Wonderland? It's just an analogy. You're not supposed to take it literally. Yeah, but I got to explain how the vase broke. And this is the situation today. Situation today is these people say, look, it was a bundle of energy. It was an excited field. It was a wave function. It collapsed and suddenly turned into a particle. And then the particle turns into a wave function. It spreads out all the way to the edge of space-time or whatever. Suddenly, it goes, shoop, and it fills all of space, and suddenly it collapses into a particle. These are the explanations these people give you. So the analogies are idiocy. That's what they are. The warped canvas that you see there, if that's just an analogy for what? What are they trying to do with that? We got to explain why the Earth doesn't run away out of the solar system, or the moon runs away from the Earth. I need to explain that phenomenon because the moon keeps rolling around the Earth. And I think I've got somewhere in here. Give me a second. Yeah, here you have it. This is what Einstein says. He says, mass, a concept, warps time. Okay, that's what he's saying. And then, what happens is he says, well, why does the moon run away out of the Earth? Well, he says that's what's happening. The moon is rolling around this canvas that doesn't allow it to leave. It serves as a wall. And some people don't even understand that. Some people have questioned why I'm saying that there's a wall of space-time. Yeah, that's why the moon doesn't run out of the Earth. It doesn't fly away. That's what these people are saying. And so you say, well, what do you mean? What is it orbiting? Well, it's orbiting mass. See, it's just going around mass. And mass is a concept. You want to know what the mechanism is. And you'll never find out. You'll never find out from these people. So this is the issue. The issue is they give you all these hocus-pocus explanations, and they say we're not supposed to take the analogy literally. Well, I got to explain why the moon doesn't run away. So if the analogy is not supposed to be taken literally, what was the point of using this analogy of the warp space if that's just Goldilocks and Alice in Wonderland stuff? That's the issue. And so, we criticize all this in this side, and we go against all that. And, what can we say? So, they asked this John Rennie guy, they asked him a question at his place, right? And he decided to answer this question. He says, this was the question, and the question was, if a photon truly goes through both slits, talking about the slit experiment, double slit experiment we covered the other day, said, at the same time, then why can't we detect it at both slits at the same time? Well, yeah, I think it's a fair question, okay? And so how did Rennie, because Rennie decided to answer this question, even though he's a high-level guy out there, you know, untouchable, one of these gods, these sages, he decided to come in and answer it. And this was his reply. You know, he says, the photons do not have well-defined trajectory. The diagram shows them as if they were little balls traveling along a well-defined path. However, the photons are delocalized and don't have a specific position or direction of motion. The photon is basically a fuzzy sphere expanding away from the source and overlapping both slits. That's why it goes through both slits. The photon position is only well defined when we collapse its wave function. And I think it was another fellow who added, in fact, there is no way to tell, nor does it even really make sense to say the photon went through one slit or the other. Okay, so what have we learned? What have we learned? Have we learned whether a particle can be at two places at once? Is that the explanation? Is it that the photon somehow morphs into a wave, and a spherical wave, I guess, and occupies the whole of space, and therefore at that point goes through both slits? I mean, what is the explanation? What is the physical interpretation? And again, we bring Feynman in and we bring Bohr in. They say nobody understands quantum mechanics. But you're belittled if you go against that, if you go against their explanation, their interpretation. And the only reason for all this nonsense is the particle hypothesis. After 10,000 years, we should have figured it out by now that we can't keep using one-way particles and one-way waves. There are no such things as waves, because the waves are also vibrations of particles, which is the ether, and so on and so forth. So they don't have an explanation for anything because the problem is particles. Mother Nature doesn't use discrete particles. That's the issue. And these people are insisting on particles, and that's the problem. You know, you can't pull with particles, and that's the issue. Anyways, here's Dr. Quantum's version, which I showed last week, of the slit experiment. You shoot little balls, right? And the ball, it's not that the ball breaks in two to make the fringes there. No, the ball goes through both slits. The ball is at both places. So Dr. Quantum can't figure it out. He says, how can that possibly be? And so you can see what they're saying. The ball really goes through both slits. And I say that's reality. And you have to accept it. Then they recombine and they make the fringes. So this is the explanation. And you got to take it or leave it, because it's shoved down your throat. You can't challenge it. You can't say that's irrational. And they say, we know it's irrational. We don't care about physical interpretations. That's philosophy. We don't understand quantum mechanics. And then you have all these people out there saying, oh yeah, they do understand it. Because if they didn't understand, we wouldn't have computers today. That's the ridiculous argument these people raise. They think that technology certifies theories. So if we have GPS, that confirms that general relativity is correct. If we have computers, that certifies that quantum mechanics is correct. What's correct? How can it be correct if you cannot explain your own theory, if you don't understand your own theory? So people confuse technology with understanding foundations, especially of the invisible world of Mother Nature. That's where the problem is. Okay. Here's another comment made by that same fellow. Okay. I want to continue with his comment because I want to lead into something else. Bill's proposal: science only uses the brain. Yeah, thinking. You got a reason. That's what science is about. And it says science starts with an assumption. That is his religion. That's my religion. Yeah? But it is not rational. It's not the rational way of doing science. Science has been defined, and if he wants to make an argument, he just has to use the existing definitions, or definition. Because until the ideas get tested experimentally and verified, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So he thinks, this gentleman who by the way, is the way lots of people think out there. At least 50%, I would say. Especially people who are into, researching or looking into science. They have some amount of interest in it. They have these opinions because this is what they've been fed in high school and college. So this is the status quo out there. That's how people believe. That's why I put what this fellow put in his comment. This is what people actually believe. Well, what do we have to say? Well, let's first address the definition issue. Do we have a definition for science today? Well, here are the definitions that you will find. Okay, these are the primary ones you find out there. What is science? And one site, the main one, says the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study. All we do is study systematically. That's it. Whether we learn anything, whether we know anything, doesn't matter, but we study. Of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Structure? Mathematics has nothing to do with structure. In fact, that's why they have never figured out how Mother Nature runs her invisible universe, because they're not interested in structure at all. They're interested in equations, not in structure. Structure is a qualitative phenomenon that has no place in mathematics. And obviously they put the observation and experiment in there because they say you need to touch, you need to go to the lab, that's science. Then the other Wikipedia definition has science a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge. This guy, the first guy said it's a systematic study. These guys say it organizes knowledge. Okay, so one guy said you just got to study a lot and not know anything. The other guy said, well, it's all we know. We organize all this stuff that we know. And who knows what they mean by that, because knowledge has never been defined. And they say in the form of testable explanations and predictions. So the first guy talks about observation and experiment, and the second guy talks about explanations and predictions. Okay, so we have a difference in definitions here. And then NASA has the most, nonsensical one. Says science consists of observing. That's what it is. Observe. You just gawk. And that's science. You look around and that's science. Okay? The world by watching, listening, observing, and recording. Science is curiosity in thoughtful action about the world and how it behaves. Okay? So no, we don't have a definition today of what science is. We don't have a precise definition. And that's part of the problem. The problem is we do not have a definition. So this person talks about a definition when we don't have one. And so let's get our definition up here. See if I can find it. Put it over here. Okay, we say we don't use the senses. Not for science. We have to use the brain. We have to use the mind. And here's the question for you. This is a $1 million question for you. Can you touch light? The mediator of light. Can you touch it? Can you see it? Can you touch the mediator of gravity? Can you touch it or see it, smell it, taste it? Can you touch the mediator of magnetism? Two magnets. In fact, I have a couple here. Okay. There's two magnets, right? Is there anything between them? Can you see it? Can you touch it? With your tongue, can you taste it? Can you hear it? So you're not going to decide what invisible entity Mother Nature uses by running an experiment. You can go to the lab all day long. It's not going to help you decide or help you identify, make visible or touchable whatever's between these two magnets. You're not going to be able to do it. So you're not going to arrive at a understanding of what Mother Nature uses out there by doing experiments or going to the lab, because these mediators that Mother Nature uses, or Father Universe, whoever, they're invisible, untouchable, untastable, unhearable, unsmellable. You can't use the senses. You have to use your brain. You have to sit back, drink a beer, and try to visualize what could Mother Nature be using. And once you figure it out, it's the end of science. It's the end of physics. Because now you figured out how this universe works. You figured out how gravity works. You figured out how light works. You figured out how magnetism works, the electricity, the atom. All those invisible things that we can't see, we can't touch, we can't smell, all those suddenly become understandable. Because you can visualize how Mother Nature's doing all these tricks, these invisible tricks that she does. When you let go of the pen, like the experiment, okay? You let go of the pen, always falls to the floor. No one in all of quantum mechanics in general relativity can explain to you that simple thing after thousands of years. That from the Greeks onwards, at least, maybe even before then, no one has been able to explain gravity, why things fall to the floor. They haven't been able to rationalize it. Explanations, we got many, but one is more idiotic than the other one, or surrealistic or whatever. They cannot explain that simple thing. And so this is the issue is, that's what we're trying to understand. We're trying to understand how Mother Nature, Father Universe run their universe, the invisible world, right? These people can't explain it. With all their math, with all their equations, they can't explain it. Okay. He had another, and here, again, his last comment was along the same lines. This is what he was taught by rote in high school, and this is what he memorized, and this is what he comes out saying, because this is what he believes in. Through observation, experimentation, measurement, collection of data, interpretation, we come up with progressively better answers to how things work. No, we don't. They don't have an answer for how anything works today. How anything. They don't know. And again, we're not talking about technology. And this guy's going to say, yeah, but we have all these satellites out there. That's technology. We do that by trial and error. We're trying to figure out what a field is. We're trying to figure out what electricity is. We're trying to figure out what magnetism, gravity, and light, what those are first. Then we can visualize how Mother Nature does all these tricks. Until we can figure that out, we're in the dark. We're blind. That's what it is. So we have no explanations whatsoever, but this fella believes, we get inch closer to knowledge. As for converting something to nothing, again you can see surrealistic stuff. Again, the equation says that mass and energy are intimately related. Mass and energy, yeah, they're concepts. So love and intelligence are also related. And are we going to put in an equation? Love is equal to intelligence times the velocity of light squared. Is that what mass is? What love is? I mean, these are concepts. What does this have to do with physics? Physics is the physical world out there. And, again, these people have been drilled so much, been hypnotized so much by the glamour of what they see today. All the lights turn on and we have all these movies and so much fascination with technology that they no longer have their feet on the ground. Anyways, as far as for converting something to nothing, again, the equation says that mass and energy are intimately related. And that's what they do. They play around with concepts and they believe they're doing physics. Okay? And it says it's proven through bombs and nuclear. That's, again, technology. It has nothing to do with science. But this is what they've been taught. This is what everybody's been fed. Okay, so what was I going to talk about today? Why did I bring this guy up? Well, because as some of you know, I was in a hospital September, October for 3 weeks. And I had an infection in my left leg, which comes every 2-3 years. I've had it 3 times now. And it's pretty nasty stuff. When I was in there, the doctors at the beginning, the reason I was there 3 weeks, is they couldn't figure it out. They tried a total of 3 different antibiotics. The first one didn't work, the second one worked more or less, and the third one finally killed it. And so during that time, I didn't think I was coming out, or I had a lot of doubts whether the doctors were going to get me out of there, And it turns out that I had been writing a book for 2 years. And I wanted to call it the rope hypothesis. I was writing that book on and off over 2 years. And here we had a powwow with my son and with my niece who came to visit me at the hospital. We had this, we were around the campfire, so to speak. And I was telling them, it was a shame that I didn't get to write that book, that if I happened to not come out of here, that book would never have been written. And they gave me a few ideas. We kicked around some ideas, and they're younger than me, so they came up with some new proposals. And I listened to them. And the first thing I did was chuck my 2 years of work down the drain. I threw it away completely. I don't even know where. I probably have the file somewhere, but I got rid of all of it completely. And instead, I began writing a new book based on their suggestions. And I wrote about 2/3 of the book by the time I got out of the hospital. Fortunately, after 3 weeks, I was able to get out of there. And since then, it's been, 4 months? And we've been editing it with my son and myself, Adrian, one of my sons. I've got 3 boys, and this is my youngest son. And we edited it, and today I put it finally online. And the problem we had this week was we had problems with, when you try to transfer Word to PDF files, they move your pictures around. Whoever has done that knows what I'm talking about. It's a pain in the butt. And we couldn't get out the book out on time. That was the issue. And I wanted to surprise you on Wednesday first, and that didn't happen. Then I tried to do it for Friday. That didn't happen. Well, we finally figured it out. It took time, and we fixed it. And what's the issue? The issue is we try to write the book so that a baby can understand it. So the issue was trying to make it simple. We had to take a lot of stuff out that was relevant but not that critical. And so we tried to write the book in such a way that anyone can read it real quickly with no understanding of physics at all. Okay? And it would give them an insight what some of these invisible things out there are. What is light? What is electricity? What is magnetism? What is gravity? How does the atom work? And first we had to describe a little bit of what it does, what we're supposed to explain, and then we went in there and explained it. Okay, that's essentially how I wrote the book, and my son helped me edit it. And so we put it online today, and the book is free. The book is totally free. It is downloadable, okay? And we want everybody to download it, okay? And here's the site. Let me show you the site because I created a new website, okay? And that's the website now, okay? It's known as ropehypothesis.com. And if you go to the section known as book up there, if you open that up, you'll find the book. It's called The Rope Hypothesis. You can download the PDF file. It's hopefully very easy to read, and hopefully you'll like it. Okay, it's for people who really want to get acquainted to a new way of looking at the universe. Okay, and what we plan to do in the next, or what I plan to do in the next few weeks, is translate it into different languages. I'm personally going to translate it into Spanish, which I'm very familiar with, and I'm going to be translating it using Google or some other internet translator. And then I'm going to look for people who have a better mastery of the tongue than what Google has, right, or whoever, right? And they're going to give it the final version, and I'm going to put their names in lights if they do that job, right? I'm going to put them on the website and on the honor roll. And hopefully we're going to stimulate this through different cities. We're going to put ads in different cities, asking people, telling people about the book, telling them that you can download it, and this way maybe we can spread the rope hypothesis around. And again, the issue is because all avenues are blocked. You can't publish anything in a respectable journal because they're all manned by people like Rennie and John Baez, and they're never going to allow a different theory, qualitative interpretation of the universe to be published. That's the issue. And so we have no other recourse but to go around that and stimulate it or promote it in different cities through ads. And that's what we're going to be doing. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing that. That's one thing. The other thing I'm going to be doing probably starting in March, because I don't think I'll be able to get to it until then, is I'm going to open up a channel, a Spanish channel on Fridays. And for those of you who might know Spanish, well, you can tune in there as well. So I'm going to stimulate a channel because what happened was that some people from the Flat Earth in South America, they challenged a lot of my theories or my arguments, really. Not my theory because I don't think they're familiar with my theory, but they challenged some of the arguments. And they did like a two-hour video, Flat Earthers. And so I'm going to address those issues. I'm going to be addressing those issues point by point. That's going to take the rest of the year. And that's what the Spanish channel is going to be about. And of course, if first I want to get the book in Spanish. and again, make it free to the world. Anyone out there can just download it, okay? And here, let me show you the site again. Okay, first let me get my son, who was the editor, and we have a way of calling him, and that's with my little chicken. And that calls my son. So he hears it over there. He goes, "Oh, you need help over here." So, hey, people want to see you. So this is my editor. He's my boss.
Hey guys.
Hans, and maybe we can get him to one of the sites. I cut off his hair after he edited everything. So anyways, here, let me show you the site again. See if I can show you where to find the book. Okay, and so it's you go to the Rope Hypothesis, and you'll find there under books, and you'll find the Rope Hypothesis book in PDF format. You can download it, send it to your friends, family, whoever. Okay, it's available to the world. 160-page book, heavily illustrated, and with all the explanations necessary. Okay, and yeah, we do welcome feedback. Okay. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that. But again, the idea is to present a new theory, a new proposal, so that you can see the universe in a different way. It doesn't mean you have to believe it. It just means we're going to be presenting in that book a different version of how the universe works. You can take it or leave it, but at least you'll be exposed to it. Right now, nobody's allowed to be exposed to it. It's like, these people have decided that you're not supposed to see any other theories. I mean, I don't agree with the electric universe, but I think they have a right to put their theory forward just like anybody else. And they've struggled over the years, and they're not the only ones. The John Chappell's group, which I criticized the other day, the same thing. They try to put their stuff out with the ether and so on. Doesn't mean you have to believe in them, but certainly you want to be exposed to this. I went to, when I was in college, I studied Buddhism and Hinduism and some of these other religions. I don't believe in any other stuff, but you need to be exposed to other ideas, and it makes you think. It widens broadens your mind, and these people are not allowing that right now. That's the problem. That's the big problem. They're not allowing a challenge to general relativity or quantum mechanics, especially from a qualitative point of view. That's the big problem right now. We have a different interpretation for the same equations. That's the issue. And they're not going to allow that, because it means that everything they did in the last 100 years is wrong. So they don't want to expose the public to new ideas. And they're doing it with your tax dollars. So think about that for a second. Okay? Anyways, Wednesday I'm going to continue with Aquinas and Bohr. I'm going to finish that up, and then we're going to continue with geometry. And if there are any issues related to the book, which many of you, hopefully it's an easy read, because the big issue in the last 4 months was trying to make it easy to read. So we made it simple. We tried to make it as simple as we possibly could, and removed all the verbiage and all the stuff that we said, well, it's not really necessary. We tried to leave a skeleton in there, right? The bare minimum. And also try to make it simple to read in standard, ordinary street language. Okay, that's how we want to explain it. Who was it? Einstein, who said, if you can't explain it to a barmaid, you don't know it well enough. And I think it was Feynman, or he's credited with it, saying something similar, saying like, if you can't explain it to a 10-year-old, again, it's because, again, like if you don't know it well enough, or you don't know it, And so we try to explain it to 10-year-olds. That's how the book is written. So hopefully you have fun with it, and again, go ahead and download it. It's there for you. It's a present to the world. We'll see you on Wednesday, okay? Bye-bye.